the zone to be. From a yin to my yang to my yang to Z. Put a grin on my chin when you come to me. Cause I'll win, I'm a one of a kind, and I'll bring death to the place you're about to be. Another river of blood running under my feet. Forged in a fire lit long ago. Stand next to me, you'll never stand alone. I'm last to leave, but the first to go. Lord, make me dead before you make me whole. I feed on the fear of the devil inside of the enemy faces in my sight. Aim with a hand, shoot with a mind, kill with a heart like Arctic ice. I am a soldier and I'm marching on. I am a soldier and I'm marching on. I am a warrior, this is my song. I am a warrior and this is my song. I'm basking the glow of the rising war, lay waste to the ground of an enemy shore.
I read you, Lima Charlie, loud and clear.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Stu and the Nun Presents. This is episode 10 with none other than JP Cervantes. Welcome, JP.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off with a little bit about yourself, who you are.
Well, I was born in Puerto Rico. I'm pretty sure you know that. I mean, by the accent, people got to figure it out, right? It's like, yeah, he's still learning English. Puerto Rico, since I was a little kid, I was always involved in anything military. At one point, my mom had me for like 2 years. I mean, I was really small in a military academy. I kind of liked that. As I was growing up, I found the Civil Patrol, so I joined that, and that got me going, man. That became my life after that. Like, I live and breathe Civil Patrol everywhere I went. So that got me started. Then, of course, when I went to college, I joined the ROTC, and then I just kept going from there.
Okay. So then how is enlisting in the U.S. Army from Puerto Rico? How does that process work?
It's interesting because, you know, when I talk to a lot of the recruiters in the States, they tell me how hard they got to work, right? I don't know how it is right now in Puerto Rico, but back in the day when I was there, I'm talking about 1995. So, man, people just walk into the recruiting station. Like, recruiters don't got to go out. Like, people walk into the recruiting station, go like, hey, I want to join either the National Guard or I want to go active duty, right? So their work was not that hard. All they got to do is wear their pretty uniforms, and we walk in there and we're like, yeah, what's that? I want to be that. Yeah, I want to do that. So it was not hard, man. I was literally walking to a recruiting station, goes like, I want to go active duty right now. I know exactly what I want. Give me the test. Let's go. And
did you consider any other branches, Marine Corps, Air Force, Navy, anything?
Yeah, actually, initially I thought Air Force. I was actually in the Air Force ROTC in college for 2 years. And then, you know, when I realized that if I want to go Air Force, I want to be a fighter pilot. I don't want to do anything else. I want to be a fighter pilot. Then if I'm going to go Army, then I want to do the cool stuff. So when I was in the Air Force ROTC, we have one of those guest instructors that showed up and started talking to us about the Air Force, you know, and the pilot program, the flight program and all that. And he started breaking it down on how many people apply, how many people make it into the program, how many people actually graduate. And when he said, oh, yeah, but right now, if you graduate, that doesn't mean you're going to fly, because we got more pilots than airplanes. So you might graduate from flight school and then be stuck in a desk for the rest of your career. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to cut it for me. So literally after that guy got done talking, I walked down the hall to the Army, to the Army ROTC, and I started talking to them as they were talking to me. Oh, yeah, we'll do the paper. We'll transfer you to Army ROTC. And I'm like, you know what? Never mind. I got in my car and I went straight to a recruiting station. So I'm like, you know what? Let's do this. I want to go active duty. Let's do it right now.
Did you go in with the mindset of you were going to do 20? You were going to do the full?
Yeah. I already knew that. Yeah, I said if I'm going to go in, I'm just going to do the whole thing.
And there was no looking at any other MOS. You were going to go infantry.
Oh yeah. Actually, they tried to bribe me with a $5,000 bonus, which in '95 that sounded pretty interesting, right? $5,000 bonus for going and being a tanker. And I was like, no, man, I want to be 11 Bravo. So they tried to put me on an 11 X-ray. And they say, once you get to basic training, you tell them you want to be a Bravo. I'm like, no, bro, you understand. I've been around the military for a long time, even though that I have not been in the military. I've been around it. I'm like, you're not going to trick me. 11 Bravo. Well, you can be a Charlie. No, 11 Bravo. You don't understand. I want that in my contract in black and white. So
yeah, you didn't want to be a tanker. My first duty station was Fort Knox back when that was still the home of armor. You didn't want to do that job.
oh well, I got lucky then. I made the right choice.
So you join, you go 11 Bravo, you get that in your contract. Of course, you go to Benning.
Yep, go to Benning, and because I also have airborne in the contract and initial assignment 82nd. So I had all that in the contract. I knew exactly what I wanted.
Okay. So when I was in, I had 2 people from Puerto Rico in basic training with me. I wasn't infantry. I went signal, but they had spent a month or more in San Antonio learning English.
That is correct.
Did you have to go through that?
No, which was a mistake of mine. Later on, I learned, right? So I was trying to be cool. They give you this little English test to see how much English you know. And I took the test and I was trying to, like, I'm going to do my best in this thing. And I passed the damn thing. So they're like, yeah, you know enough, right, to go to basic training. And while I was in basic training, I started running into a lot of guys that went to either Monterey or they were to San Antonio. And they're like, oh, yeah, I was getting paid for just learning English for 6 months. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, I'm already an E3 or an E4. I got promoted and everything. I'm like, you didn't do anything for 6 to 8 months and you got paid? I'm like, man, I really messed up by not failing that test.
Those 2 individuals were way ahead of all of us, in DNC and just, because a lot of us just came in, right off the street. And so they had, the military bearing and everything already down. So they were way ahead of the rest of us, which was
lucky for me because I was already in the ROTC and the Civil Patrol. I was in the drill team and all that. Like, to me, basic training honestly was a joke. I mean, it was like, okay, we're here, let's do this, other than being restricted to being there and your one phone call every Sunday while they're yelling at you, there was nothing different that I haven't experienced before. Either in the ROTC or in the Civil Patrol, so it was good.
So you graduate basic training and you get sent to Fort Bragg, right?
That's right, to the 82nd Airborne Division.
82nd Airborne.
Yeah,
and,
I went.
And you always wanted to go airborne the whole time, right?
Oh yeah, if I was going to do it, I needed to be airborne. There was no way I was not going to be airborne. That was one of my goals.
Okay. Where were you at 82nd?
I was in the second of the 325. First, I was in Alpha Company. Then I went to HHC because I went to the Scout Platoon, the Recon Platoon. Okay. But so when I got there, I don't know if you heard the story about the Tau Stadium sniper in 1995.
I do remember that. In 95, depending on the time of year, I was either in Germany or Bosnia. So, but I got there in 98 is when I got to Bragg.
Okay. Well, the Tau 30 sniper, that was my second week in the 82nd. And we were just doing PT. We just got out of replacement. We just got to our company, and Alpha Company at that point was still in Haiti. So when we got to our company, it was going to be a few days before the company got back. So we're over there with the rear D and we're doing PT, and I hear these popping sounds, and I look at the NCO, that Sergeant Mateo, and he was from Puerto Rico too. So I go like, hey, Sergeant Mateo, yeah, there's a range around here? Like, I don't know. I don't think there's a range around here, man. And I go like, are you serious? That sounds pretty close. And he said, yeah, but there's not a range around here. And all of a sudden we see like people running, and you hear the popping sounds over your head. You're like, and he goes like, well, guys, Zonk, see you at 9. Like, and he just left us there. He's like, Zonk. I'm like, what's going on here? Yeah, that was 1995.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy for Bragg. That was wasn't it a staff sergeant, if I remember correctly?
Yep. Yeah. Staff Sergeant Kreiser.
Yeah. So how long were you at Bragg before you decided you wanted to go Green Beret?
So honestly, I was there. I want to say it was probably about 2 years into it. That same NCO, Staff Sergeant Mateo, he became really one of my good mentors, and he actually was back at the 82nd because he was in the Special Forces Qualification course and he got in trouble there for doing some stupid shit. And so back to the 82nd, and he needed to wait a few more years before he could apply to go back. And he kept telling me, it's like, man, eventually that's the route that you want to go. And then when I first got to the 82nd, one of the NCOs that was living there, Sergeant Dominguez, went to the Q course. So while I was there in the 82nd, he had graduated and came back to visit. And he goes like, man, this is what you want to do. So I started thinking about it while I was in the 82nd, but I was too young at the time. I was still an E4. And I go like, you know what? Let me just get my experience. Let me get my Ranger tab. Let me get E5. Let me all that, get some experience before I go and do it. And so when I was going to re-enlist, the opportunity to re-enlist for Panama came up. And they told me, if you're going to re-enlist for Panama, now this is the time, because by the time that you get there, Panama will only be open for another year and they're going to shut it down. So this is your only chance to be stationed in Panama if you want to do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing it. So I re-enlist and I went to Panama in 98.
Okay.
Yep.
That was right about the time where they started changing the re-enlistment, right? So like if you were an E5 or E6, you just did like this open-ended re-enlistment, if I remember correctly, something like that.
I'm not sure when they started changing that. I know that was my first re-enlistment. So to me, I got $3,000 bonus. I was rich. So
E4 98, that was a lot of money.
Oh man, I was pimping.
Nice. And you go to Panama.
Yeah, I went to Panama, yes.
Where I mean you're living high in the hog there.
Yeah, I was in the 587 infantry. That was in Fort Kobe, and yeah, it was a great time. One of the things that we did while I was in Panama is we did a lot of platoon exchanges with Central and South America countries. So we went there for 2-3 weeks and we trained with them, and then they came over to Panama. They trained with us, so I got to travel a little bit, and I got to experience Panama, which it was actually pretty cool. It was still cheap at that time. Right. You could go to the beach and get some chicken, fries, and a beer for about $1.50. You can't do that anymore.
So what was the tempo like? I mean, were you a lot of time in the field, a lot of time just training? I mean, what was the tempo like?
Oh, in Panama, not really. We didn't spend too much. I mean, we spent some time in the field, but not a lot. I don't want to say that we were in the field a lot. I mean, it was just normal infantry duties, things like that. But no.
So during this time, of course, Bosnia has happened. Kosovo has happened. Was there any thought of you having to go there for any of that?
No. While I was in Panama, that was not even like, we didn't even mention that. That was like, everybody was just partying and drinking in Panama. Nobody wanted to hear about that.
So when did you leave Panama?
I left Panama in 99. It was a year after, because we were shutting down anyway. And that was because same Sergeant Dominguez that left the 82nd and went to the Q course, he showed up in Panama as a recruiter for Special Forces. And so early 99, actually it was January 99, I was doing air assault school over there in Panama. The MTT came over. We were doing air assault school, and he showed up and he gave this quick briefing. Of course, he got it. If anybody who's listening to this know Socrates Dominguez, they're going to start laughing immediately, because we call him he got so many gold chains. We call him he got the Mr. T starter kit. Yeah, and that's how he got people to join. He pulled out this gold tax, and you're like, you see the gold tax right here, gold dog tax. I pay for this with one TDY trip to Paraguay. I made $15,000 in TDY. You want to make money like me? You join Special Forces. And he put it back inside, and you see people in line signing up. Where do I take my PT test? I was like, dude. But when he showed up, he told me, hey, do you want to go SF? And I'm like, bro, I'm doing air assault school right now, man. I can't do your PT test. He goes like, well, you just did one for air assault. I'll take that one. And I go like, okay. And then he goes like, I go like, yeah, but I got a Ranger school coming up. And he said, bro, why you want to go to high school when I'm offering you college? And I go like, no, but because I already had a plan, right? A plan was like, I get my Ranger tab, then I go get my SF tab. Like, I had a career plan, and right. He was kind of like disrupting it. So So I go, no, man, that's my plan. And he goes like, no, bro, this is what you want to do. You can go to Ranger School at any point when you're in group. All you got to do is say, I'm going to Ranger School. And you'll go. And I go like, all right, well, put me in the list and let's see. And immediately, like within a week, I think I had Special Forces assessment and selection orders. And,
Wow.
and that was in January. In February, I was in SFAS.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, for Ranger, did you ever want to be a Ranger, or did you just want to go to Ranger School?
I wanted to go to Ranger School. I was enjoying what I was doing. Going to Ranger Battalion wouldn't bother me either. But it was not something that I was like, oh, I must be in Ranger Battalion. No, it was like, so long as I was in the infantry, I was happy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in the Q course. This is February. You said 99.
Yeah, that was a selection, Special Forces assessment
Okay.
and selection. So I went to SFAS. It was cold as hell. I don't know how I survived that because it was cold. The physical part and all that, to me, it was fun, but the cold, I didn't like it. So then I came back from that, and within 2 weeks, I think I had orders to go to the Q course.
Okay. So when did you go to Q course? What part of the year?
I left Panama in May. That was when my my PCS was set. So I went in May, and I went came back here to Fort Bragg and signed into the Q course. Yep.
Okay. So this is May. We're still in 99, right?
Yep.
So we're about a year out from 9/11 happening, right?
Correct.
Well, a year and a little bit. So how long was Q course? For
it was about 8 months.
And what was your specialty?
18 Bravo weapon sergeant.
Weapon sergeant. Okay.
Yep.
So you said 18 months?
About 8 months. Oh no, 18.
8 months.
That's more than medics.
Okay. So 8 months. So you get done with the Q course, right? Graduate.
Yep.
No issues. No issues with any of it.
No, I went through everything straight through. The only thing that delayed me getting to group was that when I graduated, my security clearance was still not finalized. It was just an interim. So they kept me over there for month and a half, I want to say it was, at the schoolhouse. But then I became an assistant instructor at the weapons course for month and a half. And once my security clearance was finalized, I went straight to group. I didn't have to go to language schools, of course, because I was going to 7th group. So I went straight to group.
And 7th group is Central and South America, right?
That's correct.
Their specialty. And you got that obviously because I think they wanted to give you a different group originally, right? But then
they did. They actually, my original group was 3rd group, and my language was Swahili. And I was trying to argue with them. I got a 3-3 in Spanish, 3-3 in Brazilian Portuguese, and you're trying to get me to 3rd group? That makes no sense. But They said, this is what we need. And then Mr. Lupiak, one of the Sante Raiders, he was a civilian working in the schoolhouse over there. And I knew somebody who knew him. So he called me into the office with I don't know who makes these decisions, but they're morons. Let me change this right now. And he changed me right there on the spot.
All right. So you finally get to 7th. Where's 7th group out of?
Well, it was here at Fort Bragg. Now they're in Destin, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
or Crestview, Florida, that area over there.
So now we're in year 2000, right? So
Yep.
So let's fast forward a little bit to 9/11 and where you were at and what you were doing at that time and kind of what your thought was.
So when 9/11 happened, I was in group already. I was in a team for a little bit, and I had just redeployed from Bolivia from a JSET that we did over there, and I went straight into MLOC, the Infantry Motors Leaders course in Fort Benning. So as an 18 Bravo, that's one of the courses that we should have, not have to have, but we should have. And I wanted to get it. I was like, if I'm going to be an 18 Bravo, I want to have all the skills. So I went there to Fort Benning and did that. And actually, while I was taking the final test, the final written test that I was taking it, one of the instructors walked in, and because the day before, I think it was like the day before or a few days before that, there was that Puerto Rican guy that climbed the, oh my God, he climbed the Statue of Liberty with a Puerto Rican flag doing a protest in New York. You remember that?
No, I don't.
So we were joking about that. And so he walks into the classroom. He goes like, yeah, what's up with you Puerto Ricans, man? First you wave flags, and now you crash planes into a building. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes like, oh, you didn't hear? I'm like, what did I hear? I'm here sitting taking a freaking test. And he goes like, oh yeah, a plane just crashed into the World Trade Center. I'm like, oh snap. Oh, okay. So I turn in my test, I get up, and there was only two SF guys in that class, one for third group and myself from seventh group. So we both get up and we walk into the little cafeteria, and everybody just standing there looking at the screens. And we stand there, and not even like 20 seconds later, we see the second plane hit. And when the second plane hit, we look at each other and we go like, that's not a coincidence. And immediately the instructors come over to us. It's like, yeah, you guys got to leave. And we're like, what? It's like, yeah, we were told you guys got to leave. But don't worry about the FTX. You guys are already a go. You're a pass. You got your certificates ready. You guys need to leave ASAP. So I had to drive straight to Bragg.
Okay. So you get back to Bragg, and what was the plan? I mean, what was the mindset of everybody there?
Well, the mindset of everybody is like, we're going to war, you know? So we get to Bragg. It was chaos. There was no gates at that point in Fort Bragg. It was an open post. And all of a sudden they make this quick, let's put some barricades and let's try to make these gates that don't exist. And let's have these privates with a 240 with no rounds standing at the gate. And I'm like, what would you put him over there with a 240 with no rounds? That makes no sense. He's like, we're being attacked, bro. It's like, right. What are you doing? Oh, you can't trust a private with bullets. I'm like, why not? So anyway, we came in and we immediately, we knew that we were seventh group, so we were probably not the first ones to go. But everybody was starting to get ready. Everybody goes like, okay, well, some of the deployments that some of the people, some of the other teams had got canceled. So we knew it was going to happen. And then all the training after that was focused on Afghanistan because we knew it was gonna happen. So,
wow. So where was that training? I mean, did they try to get you prepped like FTC out in California? I mean, what did you do? Where did you do this training? I mean, because Afghanistan, Iraq is mountainous and desert, right? So,
yep. So we went to Fort Lewis, Washington. That was one of our training places, and I forgot the exact name of the training area, but the terrain actually looked similar to Afghanistan, not the mountains area, but a lot of the uneven terrain and sand and all that from Afghanistan. It was pretty similar. I mean, I didn't know that at that time until I went to Afghanistan, and I go like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, it was good training that we did over there.
So at this point, being from Puerto Rico, you've really only been to Georgia and North Carolina. Had you been to any other states?
Yeah. I have traveled with my mom. Loved to take us on vacation. So
okay. But you'd never been to Washington before?
Oh, never. And trust me, I don't even want to go back there again. It was always raining, always cloudy. You're like, man, this place sucks.
Nice. So you guys are training, right? Other groups that are primary for that area obviously are deployed. Yep. At what point did seventh group go?
Seventh group was sent there in 2002.
2002.
Yeah,
okay.
So yeah, it was not long after.
And where was your first? Where'd you go first?
Teams went to different places, but my team went to Helmand Province, Garage.
Okay.
So we were actually the first team to establish a fire base or an A camp, and then of course you got to call it fire base because then the regular army gets offended if you call it A camp. But but we established the first one over there in Garage.
Okay.
So we built that from the bottom up. We just found a piece of land and we're like, this is ours now.
So what I mean at this point, because you didn't participate in Kosovo or Bosnia or anything like that, which I always call the kind of the pregame for what was to come. Because they did learn a couple of lessons in those two types of deals. You had deployed right to Central and South America, but what was it? I mean, this is kind of your first combat mission, right? What was your mindset? What were you thinking going into this?
Honestly, I was excited. I was pumped up, and the entire team was. And so we had guys in the team that and in the company that were in the war in El Salvador. So these are guys that got combat experience doing the SF thing in El Salvador, right? And then so they were in our company. And then we have a few also that were in Haiti and some that have a few little things that they did in Colombia and things like that. So they had some experience, but most of us did it. So we showed up and we're like, okay, well, this is it. And I remember our team sergeant, he said, when I said, well, we don't have a lot of experience, but here we are. And he said, well, you decided to join SF. You're about to get the experience, whether you like it or not. He said, this is what you're going to do. And experience doesn't matter. He said, you just got to execute. Right. And I go like, all right. And it was fun, like I actually enjoyed it. We were pumped up. We just didn't know what to expect in the sense of how does the enemy operate. Even that, we read a lot of the intel reports and things like that. Until you are on the ground and you start working with them, you really won't know what to expect. Right. Especially in Afghanistan, you're dealing with tribes as well. So each one of them work a little bit different. So you got to figure out where you're at and who you're working with. Like we're working with our AMF, and they were from one tribe, and another AMF is from the other tribe. So, you got to figure out who you're working with and how you get along with them.
Right. And your tactics evolve too, right? So, I mean, as the enemy evolves, your tactics evolve and you guys evolve. And it's this constant reevaluating what you're doing and adjusting fire to go into that.
It was a constant adjustment from what we carry to what we wear to the weapon systems that we're going to use for the operations. It was a constant change and evolving. We quickly realized if you wear all the stuff that the Army wants you to wear, you will die of dehydration and exhaustion in a mountain. And there's no way you're going to run after anyone. I mean, these guys run through the mountains with no shoes, and here you are with full kit trying to catch them. It's not going to happen. So we had to start going light, very light, to be able to keep up with these guys, because some of them were HVTs and they take off. You don't want to just let them go. You want to go after them. So, and there's no way you're going to compete with that lightweight guy going out there when you're carrying 80 pounds of stuff.
So was your mission at that time, were you kind of a mixture of, the standard special forces winning the hearts and minds, right? So going in, force multiplier versus what it became is the high value target, strike missions, right? So that's what it really became versus the original goal of Green Berets. So I was lucky enough that I was there in the beginning of the war. So I got to experience the full spectrum of special forces. Like we got on the ground, we had to build our own fire base. We had to procure stuff in the local market, in the local area. We had to work with the locals. We got to build rapport. We had to train them, right? Then we had to develop sources and contacts and start finding out where these bad guys are, start building intel packets, and then we target them, and then we execute the mission ourselves. So it was like the whole shebang. I like, holy snap. And they told me, you want the SF mission here, you got it. And take advantage of it, because as soon as this war start getting more longer and longer, more bureaucracy is going to start to fall into place, and we're going to lose all of this. So take advantage of this now. And that ended up happening. But yeah, no, we actually had a few HVTs that we went after. So while we were there in our first deployment, so it was like great. Yeah, that is the full gambit of what Green Berets were designed to do, which is awesome. I mean, that you got to experience that. So how long was this first deployment? That was 9 months. 9 months. Okay. So then you go back to Bragg, and then what are you doing? Go back to Bragg, and then we go into training, right? Recovery and training. And most of the guys had to go, and like the 18 Deltas had to go and get all their recertifications done. All the people that got promoted while they were in combat got to go and get their schooling done for their NCOPD stuff, So it was a lot of downtime, and then starting to get ready because we knew our rotation was going to come back again. Okay. And what's your rank at this point? I was a staff sergeant at that time. Okay. All right. Yeah, I was a staff sergeant, and then we did a few more JSES and things like that we did, training, of course, and everything after that. Every time we train, even though that we were doing a JSET to South America, you're still training, thinking that, let's train for this JSET, but with our main focus will be training for combat. Right. So and that became the focus for almost every team. Yeah, we did that, and then shortly after that, we lost the first 7th group guy. We lost him towards the end of that deployment, okay. Orlando Morales. So, when I was there, I had a lot of warrant officers that were good mentors to me, and I just thought, it's like,
man, I really like what we're doing, but I really think that there's a lot of things that we should have done better. But as a staff sergeant, you can have the greatest idea in the world, right? And guess what? You're still a staff sergeant, right? They're going to listen to you, but they're going to be like, yeah, great idea. But if you come back and you're a brand new W1 and you say, hey, I have this idea. All right, Chief, that sounds good. And they're like, well, what's the difference? It's the same thing I said, right? So I decided at that point I was going to go warrant officer. So
what's the process like to go warrant from a Green Beret perspective? I mean,
so I don't know the new process now, but I know back in the day you had a requirement to have two MOSs, two 18 series MOSs. So I was an 18 Bravo. My option was to go back to the course and get a 18 Charlie, 18 Echo MOS, communications or engineer, or but then they got smart and they started implementing the 18 Fox course, which is the intelligence sergeant course. It used to be part of your ONI, operations and intelligence course that was part of your ANOC, but they changed that and they actually made it a single course that gives you the Fox identifier to be the 18 Fox in the team. So with that said, they go like, well, instead of sending all these guys to the Q course again, how about you just go to the 18 Fox course, get the 18 Fox MOS, and now not only you need that as a warrant, because you need to know, because you're the ops intel fusion, so you need to know intel, and now you need that as a warrant, but now you got that, and then you can go to the warrant officer course. So that's what I did. I went to the 18 Fox course, graduated that, and a few months later I was in the warrant course.
Okay, that's awesome. And so then you go back to Bragg.
Well,
right?
Well,
you're at Bragg the whole time.
Yeah, I was at Bragg, but I went to, I think it was like either the last or second to last class that went to Fort Rucker to do the warrant officer candidate school over there. Right. So I went to Fort Rucker for those 6 retarded weeks that made no sense. Yeah, folding socks, that's going to make you a great warrant. Great. But and then straight back to the schoolhouse for the course. For the basic course for Special Forces Warrant Officer right here. Now, the whole time that I went there, it was TDY. So I was still technically assigned to 7th Group.
Okay.
So, and they already knew that I was coming back to be the warrant in the same team I just left. Which they didn't do it. Normally, they send you to a different battalion, different company. But for a while, a lot of people were submitting warrant packets, and the commander was like, I want to get rid of this guy because I don't like him. So they signed the warrant packet knowing that this guy was not going to come back to their company or the battalion. The group commander changed the policy. He said, if you sign a warrant packet, that means that you're recommending him, and that means that you are willing to work with him. So guess what? You're going to get him back.
Right.
So a lot of warrant packets started getting denied after that. So they're like, oh yeah, my bad. Yeah, I don't want him back. I don't even want to hear right now. So I came back to my same team, and most of the guys that went from my company to the warrant course with me came back to the same company as well.
How many teams have a warrant? Is there one per team, or is it?
It's one per team. Okay. That is one per team. Well, they try to have one per team a lot of times because of manning. Sometimes you have a warrant and you don't have a captain. Sometimes you got a captain, not a warrant.
Right. Okay. So you come back. When was your next deployment back to the Middle East?
Actually, it was didn't even get to finish the warrant course. I was let go early, so I could join my team that was just deployed 2 weeks prior to Iraq. Oh, so I graduated a little bit early. There was a portion of the course that already was qualified through a different training. So they just kind of like, don't worry, we'll waive this, just go. So I ended up going to my team room, walked in, and it was lonely. Nobody was there. I have a few things I needed to grab and bring with me. So I just grabbed that and I just flew commercially all the way.
Oh, wow.
All the way out there. Yeah.
So we're at in Iraq.
We went to Al-Hila.
Okay.
Which, Babylon area.
Nice.
So that's why I'm going to hell, man. I put so many holes in the holy city of Babylon. It's not even funny. I'm gonna go to hell, man.
So your mindset going in now is you just you learned a lot of lessons the first time, right?
Yep.
You decided to go warrant because you wanted to pass on those lessons. You now have combat experience. What was your mindset going into this and joining your team?
So my mindset, to be honest, was I now I got more responsibility, right? Not only I got the same responsibility of doing my job and keeping my team alive, but I'm also mentoring these guys, right? So when we went out there, the team sergeant of that team used to be the 18 Fox in the same team when I was there as an 18 Bravo. So he was a senior Charlie at first, then the 18 Fox, and I was a senior Bravo. So he was senior to me, and now I showed up, and now I'm the Warrant, right? So I was trying to figure out how that was going to work out, right? And I was like, luckily, it worked out. Like, he's an adult. He realized you got a different job, a different responsibility now. We got to work together. So that was not a problem at all. Plus, we got along anyway. So it's like there's no reason, right, to have any friction. Then we have some of the other guys in the team that were senior, that were still in that same team when we went to Afghanistan, so had that experience. But we had a lot of new guys as well. So I want to say about half of the team was new. And when I say new, it's like new to SF. Right. So it's not like they came from other teams with experience. No, they were new to SF. So that was one of my biggest concerns, is making sure that they experienced and they learned a lot from this combat deployment, but I didn't want them to think that this is all SF is. Like, they needed to understand the whole concept of SF. So that's what we tried to do while we were there.
Well, and these guys are new to you too, because you've been in school almost this entire time, right?
That is correct.
These guys probably came in while you were in school, so you had no idea who they were, what they were about, or anything. So what was that like, building a team while you're already in combat?
It was challenging at first. Luckily, the captain, he was Captain Thompson. He was a foreman enlisted in group. He became an officer. Then he comes back as a team leader, right? He had combat experience already. So he had his head in the right place, right? When it came to the big tactical, picture. The team sergeant had experience as well, which is great in combat. The 18 Fox had experience. The senior Charlie had experience. And now we got all these new guys. So trying to build them was like, now understand that we're also working with the Salvadorans, right? We were the very first Special Forces liaison element to go and join forces with the Salvadoran element in Iraq. So now not only we got to try to teach these guys, hey, this is how you operate, and this is what we learned that work or don't work in Afghanistan. However, understand this is a total different environment. I hate when people say Afghanistan, Iraq, same thing. It's not the same, completely different environment. And now you also have to deal with Salvadorans. Now you got to not only use your report building skills with the Gila SWAT, which is who we were working with, and that's one culture. Now you also got to work with your Spanish skills to deal with the Salvadorans, which is a completely different culture.
Right.
And now we also need the assistance of the Polish and the Latvians and the Romanians in this base, because some operations we might need their help. How do you deal with that? And so they ended up learning real quick. But I'm very proud of them. A lot of those guys, we have an E6 that went to a major meeting at the Latvian command center, and he briefed a bunch of colonels in a mission that we're going to do. And this circles around the intel guys. So I was like, yep, that's my boy. It's like, so they got a lot of experience, a lot of not only good training, because we did do a lot of training, but they got a lot of good combat experience. And that one right there, it was also the SF mission that everybody wants. So when we did that Special Forces liaison element, or I'm just going to call it SIFLI, that's how we call it. When we did the SIFLI, we were the very first ones to go and do it. So that was a SecDef directed mission. And even though that we were there and we had fifth group guys that were on the ground, and we were kind of like, for admin, we went to them for things that we needed, but technically we didn't work for them.
Okay.
So nobody knew what we were supposed to be doing. Nobody knew who we're supposed to be reporting to. And so it was super I just love it. You just went like, we're going to this target, send a 5W en route, and we're hitting targets. And we're coming back, sending reports, going again, hitting targets. You know, it was like left and right, hitting targets, building report, hitting more targets, building sources, hitting more targets. And it was just amazing. I heard that a few rotations later, they started putting a lot of restrictions on the teams because they're like, man, these guys are. It got to the point that we went to the CCIF and we were in a meeting and they told us this one team from 7th Group have conducted more operations than an entire battalion.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a pretty high tempo. That probably makes the time go by real quick.
Yeah. Now, let me get this straight. It's not that the 5th Group guys were not doing their jobs. They were doing their jobs. The problem is they have so much bureaucracy they got to go through to be even to go in and up that we didn't. It got to the point where sometimes they called us and they say, hey, guys, we got info about this here. You guys want to go and check it out? And we're like, yep, we're rolling right now.
Nice.
So.
Nice. So, and with all of those different groups that you're mingling with, there's no common language amongst any of that. You know, that's like taking someone from France and someone from Germany and trying to find a language that they all speak, right?
Man, I mean, they all spoke English, but just imagine me speaking English with a Latvian accent, right? Everybody got broken English going on.
Right.
The Salvadorans got broken English. I have broken English. You know, it's like Latvians, Romanians got broken English, and we're like, man, I don't understand what anyone is saying here. But
were there any issues like in lost in translation kind of with any
sometimes like not dealing with the Salvadorans, of course, we're 7th Group team. Most of our guys spoke Spanish, but with the Latvians and Romanians, we did have a lot of that. But we made sure we double check, right? We never did anything. If we had any doubts, we ask again, okay, did you mean this? And they go like, oh, yeah, that's what I meant. I just said it wrong. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, it's like detonate the bomb or do not detonate the bomb. Which one do you mean? You know, it's like,
were these regular units or were these special units within the respective countries?
So the Latvians have some of their special op guys over there. The Romanians didn't. So the Latvians did and the Polish did. But all the other ones didn't. They were just regular people out there. A lot of them were just intel units, just gathering information, things like that.
Okay. And so how long was this deployment?
That was 6 months.
Oh, that's pretty short.
Yeah, it was short, but the tempo was so high that it just went fast. It went fast. And we were there doing the elections, and we got to the point where we received a direct message from CCIF that told us, if you have any target packets on anyone connected to the Mahdi militia, which they were the bad guys at the time,
right?
Connected to the Mahdi militia, it's like you do not need a full packet.
Go.
Execute now. Take them all down. And when they said that, we hit actually 30. Oh my God, I want to say it was 30 something targets in just one night.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
So it got to the point where the CSO had to tell us to stand down for 72 hours, mandatory stand down, because we were just out there just slinging it.
Right. So after this deployment, obviously back to Bragg, and then then what's next?
So when we got back, we just regular JSONs and stuff like that. But I was immediately picked to go to C37. That's the CIF, the old CIF. And so I was picked to go to that. And actually about 5-6 guys from my team were directed to go to the CIF. They didn't give us an option. I remember when the group commander came to the team room and said, yeah, you're going to the CIF. I'm like, oh, no, I appreciate the opportunity, sir. But no, I'm happy in my team. Like, I don't want to go there. And he goes like, Chief, I was not asking.
Well, at that kind of tempo and what you were doing, I mean, you guys probably had the most experience and the most knowledge about, what it was like over there, right? So
bingo.
Building that brain trust.
So bingo. So the CIF at the time have not deployed to either Afghanistan or Iraq. They have been to Haiti for the turmoils over there, but not to Afghanistan or Iraq. And our team was the only team in 7th Group with Iraq experience.
Okay.
So they took about 6 guys from our team ended up being the entire team later on. But 6 guys from our team moved into the SIF because the SIF was getting ready to get orders to go to Iraq. And we were the only ones with Iraq experience at that time.
Right.
So
Okay.
at that point, I understood. It's like, okay, it's a mission requirement. I get it.
Right.
Kicking and screaming, I'll move over there, which I ended up loving it anyway. So I don't know what I was complaining about. But.
So how was the mission with the SIF versus what you were doing before?
Tell you
Was
what,
there more bureaucracy?
No, actually, I enjoy the SIF a lot because I really think that everybody in group should serve in a regular ODA and in the SIF at some point. And I'm going to tell you why. Like in a regular ODA, right, when we went to Iraq, Afghanistan, we went to a JSET. We submit a request and we submit what we need for aircraft, this and that. And the battalion does all that for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So next thing you know, your aircraft, they submitted all this, D-60 report, D-180 report. They did all that. The team is just concentrating in training and developing their plan at the team level. When you're in the SIF, that's a whole different story. The team has to come up with all those plans. Like as a warrant, I'm over there dealing with a D-180 that I have never dealt before, right? That's a battalion staff level thing.
Right.
But here I am dealing with it D-60, D-30. I'm doing all those reports, all those requests, and I'm pushing that up. So I actually learned a lot the hard way, right? Learn a lot, and the team sergeant was very experienced. So he goes like, "Hey, Chief, if you got any questions, let me know." Like we didn't have a warrant in this team for a long time, so I did all those reports. Let me know. And I'm like,
okay.
Thank you.
So were you actually? I mean, because we know how it happens, right? You get stuck doing reporting, and you lose that connection to actually being out, right? Were you able to do both? Were you able to, or did you get pulled a little bit out of actual mission?
No. Every time my team went, like we went to Chile together, like the whole team goes, right?
Okay.
I actually got pulled in to go with another team to Colombia to do the mission to rescue the American hostages down there.
Okay.
So because they didn't have a warrant or a captain, so they needed an officer to be the commander of that team, so they put me there. But no, everything we did together, even training, like if I knew, so, I know a lot of people talk about warrants and they talk about the guy that you never see, right? He's never there. And that is true for regular Army conventional forces warrants. But let me tell you, SF warrants, they work a lot.
Yeah.
So I got to my team normally about 2 hours prior to everybody else, because I'm sitting over there trying to, get this either con up going or get this MyCon for training that the guys want going, right? The guys go like, Chief, we need training here, make it happen. I'm like, I'm working over there. And then, the Benny Rios, the 18 Bravo was like, hey, Chief, yeah, I got your gun. I got this. Everything is loaded in the car. When you're ready to go, let us. I'm like, just when you're ready, let me know. They're like, Chief, we're ready to go. I'm like, boom, send, or I save it. I get in the vehicle. We go train. I come back. Everybody's cleaning weapons. And then I am finishing that report to send that up or finishing that MyCon. So I get there earlier. I leave later. There's no excuse to say, well, I can go training. Yes, you can. You can go training with your team. You just got to work a little bit longer.
So how was the tempo that next Iraq deployment with the SIF versus the first one?
So I didn't go with the SIF to Iraq. In October 2005, I had a Humvee rollover accident, and that was while we were training for that Iraq deployment with the SIF.
Okay.
We got a Humvee rollover accident. I broke T4, 5, and 6, cervical 6 and 7, 13 bones in my face. I'm lucky to be alive, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't think you sent me a picture of that one.
I can send them to you later if you want.
No, I think I've seen them. I think I've seen them on your socials.
Yeah. I actually on Instagram I got a video of the accident. I think
that's one thing you and I have in common. I have 2 plates above and above and below my face where I was in a rollover vehicle accident.
When you walk through the metal detectors at the what do you call it, at the convenience store or anything like that, the little tags, does it saps you?
No, mine. But when I go from an air-conditioned building out into the heat, this all twitches. All of it just kind of twitches and starts reacting to those plates. So, Yeah.
Yeah, but I had that accident, and so that was in October. I didn't actually get back to work until probably February, which I was not even supposed to. I just couldn't stay at home. So, and the company knew it. Like the guy, they knew there's like, he's going to kill himself if you're living at home. So they started sending a vehicle here every day, right? And they load me in the car. I'm over there with a TLS brace, Drake, wire jaw, and I'm going over there to the team room, and I just sit there for like an hour or two. And now I'm so tired I can't even move, and then they take me back home. But I felt like I'm still in the game, even though that I couldn't do anything, right?
Right.
But that actually helped me recover faster. So October accident, February I started going back to the company. I was still having a wire jaw. They didn't take it until March, I believe. And in June, I was already deploying with that team.
Really?
So yeah, so they moved me from an assault team to the RST, or the later became the AFO detachment, what people call the long hair team. We never wore uniforms, relaxed grooming standards, and we just do reconnaissance in Central and South America, right? So they put me in a team as the commander of that team, because that team is normally commanded by a warrant officer. So they're like, well, the commander in that team is leaving. JP needs to recover. Let's put him there because he don't have to wear kit. So let's put him there. So they put me there, and it was the best thing that could have happened to me. I learned a whole different aspect of the missions. I had an amazing team, and we deployed, oh my God, everywhere in Central and South America. I forgot, I think in 1 year, some of the guys in the team hit about 9 countries.
Wow.
Yeah. It was fun.
Okay. So after this, how much longer, when did you get out? At what point did you decide to retire?
So I retired in 2011 after 17 years. It was a medical retirement.
Okay.
I was not gonna do it. I was gonna push it through. Right at that point, I was working in the warrant officer proponency office. So basically, all I did was go through package that people put in and make sure they got everything that they need to send up for HRC. I was miserable, and TD Doyle, which was the proponent warrant, the CW5. He now this is a guy that old school, one of the first SF warrant officers in class, right? This guy was already retired, and he got called back into active duty after 9/11.
Oh wow!
So just imagine that, CW5 forever. So TD Doyle was sitting over there, and he's telling me, JP, you're miserable. I'm like, well, I'm gonna go back to a team, and he was like, JP, with the injuries you got, you can't even remember that you were coming here this morning because your TBI is that bad. It's like your eyes are not working well. You can't even look at the screen because your light sensitivity. It's like, you can't go back to a team. I'm like, well, TD, I'm hating this life. I can't do it. I'm not politically correct. I'm here working in a building with a bunch of civilians, and I'm hurting feelings left and right. I'm gonna lose my rank at some point. And he goes like, you need to accept that medical retirement. And I go like, look who's talking. If you retire, I will. And he goes like, if you take your medical retirement, I'll retire. And I'm like, oh snap. So, he kind of convinced me, and he talked to me. He was very honest. He said, you will, if the team life is all you want, you will never go back to it. Let's be honest. And also remember that the Army is still going to be here. It's going to still be rolling. This is your chance to spend time with your family. The people that will remember you 20 years from now. And I go like, shit, he got me there. so I did it. I took it 17 years, took my medical retirement, and I will not complain about it. Yeah. No, it was the right decision for me, for my health, for my family.
So we talked about this briefly before we started. What is your thought now, looking at, versus when 9/11 happened, and then kind of with that hindsight, looking back at things, and your thoughts, is there's a lot of guys, especially when the withdrawal from Afghanistan, as an example, really set off a lot of emotions with a lot of people, and made them feel as if they had wasted their time, right? And it was all for nothing, because basically Afghanistan is back in the hands of the Taliban. So what is your perspective on this?
Let's talk about Afghanistan first. My feeling on that is like we knew we weren't going to be able to stay in Afghanistan forever. I mean, that, let's be honest, we stayed there longer than we should have. Now, am I complaining about being there in the first place? No, I'm not saying that was the right or wrong decision. We were there and we need to do our job, right? Did I see a lot of positive things that we did over there? Plenty. Every time, we went to this small town and we hit targets, we get rid of HVTs, and you see little kids walking up to you and telling you, thank you, I can now go to school. Thank you, I can now learn. You know what? That's good for me. That's good satisfaction right there. Like we're making a difference in a place where people cannot protect themselves. So to me, it was completely worth it. Now, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, that's a whole different fiasco. I think it was irresponsible the way it was done and put a lot of lives in danger, a lot of lives of people who helped us in danger, and it should have been done better. Now, do I disagree with withdrawing from Afghanistan? No, I just think it should have been planned better, and it shouldn't be just like a knee-jerk reaction. It should have been a process established for withdrawal. And with that said, they should also try to find a way, or how we keep permanent presence here to ensure the safety, right? Whether it's building more embassies and consulates, whether it is establishing a JSET program over there where we're training the locals all the time. So now you got military presence at all times, not necessarily combat operations, but just presence like we got in other countries. That could have been done, but it was not done. It was just done wrong. Now, do I feel like the withdrawal wasted my time over there? No, because the changes and the impacts that I made while I was there, they were real in real time.
Right.
So that those impacts are not going to last long now? No, but at that time I made a difference. So to me, it was still worth it.
Okay. And what about Iraq? Anything on that?
Iraq is a little bit different. And the reason is Iraqis actually like to fight for their country. They love it. They love that thing. And we went to targets sometimes and they didn't allow us to go in first because they said, if anybody gets shot, it's going to be us. You guys are here helping us. This is our country. We get shot first. And we're like, all right. And like, I didn't like it because I like to be the first one in the door, but it's just the way they think. And so I knew that Iraq, we could develop a plan and move out of there at any point. However, we still made a difference. How many people that we ran into and they said, oh, you see that river over there? Yeah, there used to be 100 to 150 women floating in the river every single morning because the generals and Saddam, they drive down the road, they see a woman, they stop, they grab her. The husband better not complain or they get shot. They put him in the car, they take him over there for their officer's party, then they kill him and throw him in the river in the morning.
Wow.
And that was right there in Gila, in one of the rivers. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, it used to be. And one of the ladies that was working for us at the time, she used to work in that hotel during the regime. She's like, I saw it every morning. So I'm like,
crazy.
Yeah. So I'm like, are we making a difference? Yeah. But I knew the Iraqis were going to be able to take care of themselves. Yeah. I mean, it's like they love to train, they love to fight for their people. So it's different than Afghanistan, completely different mindset.
Okay. All right. Well, we've been going for about an hour, but I want to give you the opportunity. Is there any stories, anything you witnessed that you want, your grandkids, your, great grandkids to be able to listen to you tell?
I'm going to tell you a Middle Eastern one and then a South America one.
Okay.
And it's going to be quick. The Middle Eastern one, I'm going to tell you, is like when we were in Afghanistan, we couldn't figure out why people didn't understand what was going on. Then we quickly realized that most people there are illiterate. They can't read, right? So, and they are not allowed to have TVs or radios, right? So when the Taliban tells them this is what the Quran says, since they're 5 years old, if you're 30 now, and I tell you this is the Quran doesn't say that, what are you going to tell me? No.
You're a liar.
You're a liar. Since I'm a little kid, that's what the Quran says. Now, why they don't know the truth is because they can't read the Quran by themselves. So the Taliban took advantage of that. So to all the kids out there, right? What I will tell you is that was ignorance was their biggest the biggest weapon that the Taliban used to take control of people.
Right.
So we don't want to be like that here in the United States. You need to be educated. You need to read, right? And if somebody tells you something and you think it might or might not be wrong, do some research in different places. Don't search just Fox News or CNN or anything like that. You actually sit down and do some research, and you might end up finding out that what you think is true is not. So social media will brainwash you. So don't let happen in the US what happened in Afghanistan. And they're back to that again. Now they can't read again. They can't, watch TV or listen to radio unless it's the Taliban radio. So we don't want to be to that. Educate yourself, do some research. Don't just take people's word for it. And South America, I can tell you, it's the same thing I told my son. I started bringing, every time I deployed to South America, and I did it also when I went to Iraq and Afghanistan, mostly Central and South America. I used to take pictures of the kids sleeping on their cardboards in the street with no shoes. I used to buy them food all the time. Sometimes we bought them medicine and things like that. But I used to take those pictures and I used to bring them home. And every time my kid complained about, hey, I don't have the newest game, I was like, yeah, well, guess what? He got bigger worries. He don't have a place to sleep. Yeah. And I just show him pictures. And you know what? It took only a few months. My son never complained again. Ever.
I'll probably get a little bit of hate for this, but only in America are the homeless overweight. You don't see overweight homeless people in other countries.
I had a homeless, by the way, who asked me for money, and I said, I don't have any cash. He broke out his iPhone and he told me I take Venmo, PayPal, and Square. A brand new iPhone. I don't even have that model.
Right.
How are we doing that?
Yeah, but, the average American doesn't understand what it can really be like in other countries.
So I was recently in Texas. Well, not recently, but in Veterans Day, I was in Texas, and I was a keynote speaker for one of the Red, White, and Blue events. And there was a World War II veteran over there who said something that stuck with me. And this for all you veterans out there that people come to you all the time, because normally when people come to me and tell me, hey, thanks for your service, I always tell them, oh, my pleasure. I'll do it again if I have to, right? Because I don't like to say you're welcome, because I chose to serve, It's like, but he said it the best. He said, when people walk up to me and tell me, thank you for your service, my answer now is, you're worth it.
Nice.
And he said, when I said that, I shocked them and they just walk away. And I go like, you're worth it. That's pretty good. That's what I got.
Good response.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to use from now on. And, for all the listeners out there, all the veterans out there, I don't want you to think that what we did over there didn't make a difference. It did. It changed someone's life. Maybe not as many as we wanted to change, but it changed someone's life, saved someone's life. And it made us better. It made us better as veterans, right? Now we understand a lot of things we didn't understand before. You understand a culture I didn't understand before. Maybe we still don't understand half of the culture anyway, but you learn a lot of things, and mostly you learn a lot about yourself. Yeah, we got struggles. I do. I still got smell in my nose of dead bodies of children's, piled up in front of a hospital. Because an IED in Iraq, and that smell comes to me all the time, and it drives me crazy. But I also understand that while I was there, I saved other children. So so you gotta balance it out.
Right. Yeah, as Troy always says, at least here, I wish we could get back to the country that we were on 9/12, right? Because 9/12, everybody was unified. There was no. There was not all this bickering. There was not this political strife. There was not this separation. It was everybody was united, and it would be great to be back to 9/12.
Yeah, so. It would be. Like I got a lot of friends that go here to the bar, Charlie Mike, and they are Trump haters, and they love Biden, this and that. We sit over there, we drink beer, and we make fun of each other, and we hug each other, and they call me at 2:00 in the morning, and they need my help. I'm gonna show up, right? Yeah. It's like there's no reason to be hateful to each other just because we disagree in things.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to leave us with?
No, man. I just want to say, all of you guys out there, keep doing a good job, man. I love your show. So
I appreciate it.
Keep doing a good job. And thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir, for coming on.
Yep, no
Stand by
problem.
for 1 minute.
Yep.